connected.
This big, long, open right-hander up ahead. I haven't seen it for 17, 18 years, but it was always one of my favourites. This one right here. If I was on my bike myself, I could always get a rear slide with these bumps. I could use it to spin up the motor a little faster. If I had a passenger, I had to slip the clutch instead. Beautiful weather, beautiful scenery, beautiful road, good friends. Yeah, what's not to love? Well, I'll tell you what's not to love. Seeing a truck spill a load of sand right in front of you as you're going around a corner like this. Leaned over, too fast to take avoiding action. That's what is not to love about this. On the track, if that happens, if someone accidentally puts dirt on the track, which can happen, then there's a person there with a flag waving, saying, hey, watch out, there's dirt or some other substance that shouldn't be on the track right in front of you, or around a visible, around a blind corner. They warn you to take care to avoid the hazard. I don't see many corner marshals here. My buddy Craig had a really nice GSXR 91 model, and he crashed it. He came along this section right here just too fast, and he knew the road as well as I did, and yet he made a mistake, and he took this corner here and just misjudged it and hit that embankment right there. I don't remember the exact injuries, but it was shoulder, leg, wrist, arm, maybe ribs as well. And his poor bike was just so badly damaged, he was expecting to just throw it away, but luckily for it, a friend of ours bought it and revived it. So this was all while I was riding a little RGV 250, and then I went and bought the RC30. And that was really dangerous. The power that thing had, it handled just as well as the RGV, if not better. It had easily more than twice the power. Well, I'll go a little further. That's where we always used to stop. That's where I filmed Tiffany and Sean doing wheelies up and down here. That's a whole different subject. Don't get me started on that. Yes, Sean, he did some pretty good wheelies on his ZX7 or ZX7, ZXR, whichever one you want to call it. But for now, I think I'll just turn around. And this was the section where I could never keep up on the RGV. It just didn't have the horsepower. Well, the bigger bikes would just go roaring off into the distance around here, down this big, long downhill section coming up. There it is. So it is nice scenery, that's for sure. I can remember many hundreds of days where I came up here just so excited about the opportunity to come riding with my buddies. And actually the first time I ever came up here, the dealership Action Suzuki, I had just bought a GSX 250F. That was the Across model, 4-cylinder 250 bike. That thing screamed. It would I think the red line was 19,000 RPM. It sounded amazing. So I bought it, and the salesman said, oh hey, you're going to come for a ride with us. We've got it planned for a couple of weeks. So everyone met at the dealership. There were hundreds of bikes. And because the dealership mainly invited people who had just bought bikes, they were all brand spanking new. That was 1990. There was I. It actually wasn't my first bike, it was my second. But I was still a learner, had my L or P plates probably at the time. And I went to the dealership at like 7 o'clock in the morning. There were hundreds of bikes, literally several hundred, all lined up both sides of the street. There was I with my little GS6s, and it was probably one of very few 250 4-strokes. Very few. Back then, everybody, if they were a learner, everybody bought 2-strokes. But I'm not quite sure how I managed to get the sensibility and the good judgment to buy a 4-stroke 250. But luckily for me I did. And there were hundreds of bikes lined up on both sides of the street. We all took off at once. And of course when you've got a group of people, a group of motorcyclists, of course 99.9% of them were men. When you get that many motorcyclists together, they just behave like maniacs. And that's what happened. No regard for traffic laws, no regard for speed laws. We came up here and I think there were 3 or 4 crashes within the first mile. We'd be riding along, as of course I was on one of the slowest bikes in the group, so we would always come across the carnage, someone laying on the road, a bent, beat up bike somewhere around in the neighbourhood, a little... Okay, this is where the guy locked up the rear brake. Destroyed his shoulder. I was coming up here, he just did it right, just past where that 45 sign is there, hit that barricade right there. Anyway, so yeah, there was 3 or 4 crashes in the first mile, and it didn't change much for every other mile. But that was my introduction to this road, 1990. Let's see, April, May, June, July, August, September. It would have been October, November, so middle of summer. It was a fun day for me because I didn't have any crashes. But I remember thinking that one guy, fully decked out in his race suit, very new. Actually, he was on an FZR, very near new FZR 1000, which was utterly destroyed. Back then they were like $10,000 or $12,000, that's all, but still, back then it was a lot of money. 1990. His suit was destroyed, his helmet was destroyed, his bike was probably destroyed, although I found out later that it was not insured either. And he was just the first of many that day. But at least it was an interesting introduction for me, so I went home at the end of that and said to my girlfriend, oh, there's this amazing road. And she was a bit of a speed freak herself, so she jumped from the back and said, hey, let's go. Which of course was in itself illegal to carry a passenger with a learner's permit, but it didn't stop me. And luckily for me, I had a history of riding dirt bikes as a kid, so I do think it really helped. And she loved it. She seemed to enjoy it just as much as I did, to the extent that later she went and got her own little BR 250, got her full license, went and got a CBR 600 back in '93. That was a great bike. And she even did some rider schools with me, with a company that doesn't exist anymore, Road Sense. I can't remember his name. No, it wasn't Damien, it was, what was his name? Anyway, she did some rider training, and then just around the time when I started racing, we were at a practice day at Eastern Creek, and I said to her, do you want to take it for a spin? And she said yes. So she went for a couple of laps on a track day as well. Said she loved it. If I remember correctly, that was the only time she went on a track day.